Welcome back. Developing with economy and effecting and executing a successful economic roadmap won't be implemented without the implementation of new railroads and efficient roads all over the country. And this is what Egypt is trying to do right now. And two important conferences took place, or two important events took place that tackled the importance of infrastructure, of transportation, and the challenges, the different challenges, which is most importantly, that meet transportation, the problems of transportation inside Egypt, which is normal in every country. We're very delighted to be joined by Dr. Khaled Abbas, former Dean of Transportation National Institution. Good morning, Dr. Abbas.
Good morning.
A very good morning to you, sir. As my dear colleague Dina said, those two events, of course, they discussed a lot of challenges and had, in the same time, a lot of recommendations and a lot of plans, of strategies for tomorrow. Would you please first give us a brief on those two things, the challenges, the discussions, and the recommendations of those two events?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to start by saying that we need in all disciplines, whether transport or any other discipline, to regularly have events like this. I mean, conferences are not a luxury thing. Conferences are a requirement. And repetitive conferences is also a requirement. You need always to have this kind of think tank and brainstorming exercises from time to time. Now, we are very privileged in Egypt because there are lots of conference organizers in the world that wish to hold conferences in Egypt. So it doesn't cost us any money really, and it promotes...
Relatively, at least.
Yeah, it promotes, actually it brings us money, and it promotes the think tanking of different disciplines. Now, we had two events, as the colleague have said now. The first one was the Egypt Transport Infrastructure Summit, which was held in one of the hotels in Egypt, and it included lots of stakeholders. It included contractors, consultants, government officials, academics, professionals, international donors. All of this came together, and actually they were not only attending, but they were presenting. We had over 2 days conference and one workshop. In the 2 days we had about at least around 20 presentations from the different stakeholders. Now that first conference tackled the transportation sector in all of its entities. So it tackled roads, railways, rivers, and logistics. It tackled also traffic safety issues. It tackled also the planning that has been conducted previously in Egypt and why this planning has not yet been implemented on the ground. One of the most important things and themes that came into the conference is the requirement, and this is a very nice thing related to English language as well, is we need to achieve what we call multimodal, integrated, smart, sustainable transport systems. This is the theme of the conference almost. And if you look at this, it has the abbreviation of the first letters of a very famous movie picture called MISTES. Multimodal, integrated, sustainable, smart, sustainable transport system. Now, we talked about all the dimensions of multimodality. We talked about all the dimensions of integration, and what do we mean by sustainability, and the most important thing that came out of that conference is that you have to plan the transport sector and to look at it in its entity. You cannot just look at it in separate piecemeal approaches. I can continue if you wish, if you don't.
Right, sure. Dr. Abbas, also all over the media, talks came or statements were released that there is an upcoming visit by the Chinese president, and there are huge talks about forging agreements on establishing railroads with cooperation with the Chinese government and roads generally in Egypt. If you can elaborate on that. Do you have any news on this?
And the bullet train.
And the bullet train,
of course.
This is what I mean.
Then I'm going to come from Mansour in half an hour or something.
Yeah, actually, as we have mentioned previously, that we have an imbalance between the number of passengers and goods moving on road transport versus rail and river transport in Egypt. Despite that we are privileged in Egypt geographically by having the river, and we are privileged that we are the second country after Britain which had railway, yet we have only around 2% of passenger, 2% of freight transports moved by rail and river, and about 6% moved by freight and river, by river and rail, while the other are in the road sector. And of course, we all know that the road sector has lots of traffic accidents, and relatively, if you compare it to the rail, and the rail and the river are more efficient, more cost efficient, less environmentally pollutions, less energy consumption. So we need really to have this integration of projects, and I think the Chinese are very keen to get engaged into a huge rail project in the Western Desert, which is the fast train or the high-speed train or the bullet train, whatever you want to call it, which possibly will connect from Alexandria until Upper Egypt in the Western area. Now, I will take this opportunity to say that we need very much to establish. I mean, this is a very big project, and I personally think that this is a requirement, despite that it needs, of course, to have all the feasibility studies and the planning studies for it, because it's a huge project. However, the planning required, the basic rule of thumb requirement is that you need to move your population from the Delta region to west and east. Now, in the eastern part, we all know...
Build it and they'll come.
Exactly, but in the eastern part, we all know that the main project we are having now is the Suez Canal. Okay, so this is our mega project in the east. We need another mega project in the west to make this horizontal shift in the map of Egypt, east and west.
Don't you consider the new Al Alamein, for instance, city, as one of those projects, or at least to be a start, sir? Yeah,
definitely, you are right. You are now moving geographically in the plan. We have another two mega projects, which is what I call the Mediterranean projects and the Red Sea project. The Mediterranean project is basically the North Coast tourist attraction, and even it's becoming to be an extension to Alexandria, and maybe it will be population areas and tourism and all that stuff. And you have also the Red Sea. So including your words, is we have four main geographical areas that we need to concentrate or to zoom in: the east, the west, the Mediterranean strip or the Mediterranean coast, and the Red Sea coast. Now, coming back to the question of the railway, I'm just warning here something very, very important, and that is, hopefully people will realize, decision makers and planners, that you don't have to take the railway project, if it happens, and inshallah it will happen, very far from the strip. Because if you take it very far from the strip, all experiences have shown Egyptians do not move very easily. They do not change locations very easily. You don't need this railway only to transport people. You need it as an opening project for economic development and demographic resettlement. You need to shake the whole demographic map of Egypt by this.
Distribution of population.
Distribution of population.
Yeah.
And remember, very, very nice thing, the United States, it's nice and bad as well. The United States, when you see the old movie pictures, the cowboys, the train of the West. So they were all East occupiers, the French and the British, and then they wanted to explore the gold in the West. So they built that train and they went there and they explored the gold, but they killed the Indians. Anyway, this is a side story. So what we need to do here is we need to have a railway project to the west, not far, I think 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers from the strip, and then you connect horizontally, east-west horizontally, by road projects. So the main project, which is north-south project, would be a railway, a high-speed railway, and then you connect. And now you have like boxes, that these boxes will, all the land value will get high, and you will develop them, and it will amalgamate itself to the strip.
Sir, if you permit me,
Yeah.
because as you're talking about the new railway project and how it's going to connect from to the north, from Alexandria to Upper Egypt and maybe to Aswan and maybe even to the Nuba district, I cannot help but thinking about, and what's going on now? I mean, the maintenance. I mean, injecting new sets of trains or something, because maybe these projects are going to involve the private sector, so the ticket is not going to be that cheap or that available for the ordinary citizen. And this is great. I mean, I do not object, or I do not have any objection regarding that. But what about what's going on now? What about avoiding railway accidents nowadays? As you know, whenever there is a railway accident, it's a disaster.
I think that all of this, the railway projects and most of these projects will be possibly funded by international funding if it is packaged in the correct way. And I do endorse this very much, simply because we need international money coming to Egypt. We don't need only Egyptian investors to be investing. We are competing in the world now for international funding with other countries. Now, the most important thing is that we are ready for it, i.e. we are not engaged with the private sector except when we are engaged in what we call a win-win situation, not a win-lose situation. So we have to be ready. We have to be ready by the financial feasibility studies that we have. We have to put ourselves into the private sector shoes, and we know how he's going to gain money out of that. And he doesn't come and be shrewd on us. We have to be also shrewd, and we have to protect our interests as well. And we allow him to invest, and we welcome his investments, but we protect our national interests. As
you said, sir, a win-win situation.
Now, the other thing, as you said, I don't think that these kind of trains will be subsidized. I think you're quite right that possibly it will, because high-speed trains by default are very premium and high level of service, and you cannot subsidize them. And I think that there will not be so many stations. There will be, for example, 5 or 6 stations. So, for example, you reach from Alexandria to near Cairo, then after that maybe a station in the middle, and then a station in Asyut or in Upper Egypt afterwards, in Luxor and Aswan. So this will allow kind of business opportunities and businessmen and tourism and all that stuff to use that. So it's a premium type of passenger. Now, when they do the design features and everything, by default, a train like that will be completely has a protected track. It will be completely protected track, i.e. you will have space right and left of the train, which will be completely protected. Another very good thing that while you are talking about it is usually such projects increases the price of land around them, right and left of the train track. What should happen is that we should capitalize on this land becoming expensive, either by offering it as concessions to the entrepreneur who's going to do that, or by us developing it through urban and regional planning, such development of tourism, of industrialization, of new cities, different of sports cities,
free trade zones, logistics areas,
exactly,
whatever.
You name it. So you will create an enormous amount of opportunities. And by the way, many countries in the world, in Japan, believe it or not, in Japan, in Tokyo,
Japan,
the railway is completely funded by the land development around the railway. They own the railway authority. They own the land, and what's above the land is rented from them. So they have so much money to spend in the railway. They're very rich. That
comes by prior planning, but again focusing on maintenance and again focusing on prioritizing our targets and our aims and our lists. It's nice to attract premium, like you said, the passengers, and to invest business opportunities and all that. But why do we get drifted away from our priorities and our top listed targets on our agenda, which is serving The citizen, the layman in the street, and the middle class and lower. Now they are in dire need for that kind of transportation, like the bullet train, for example, and the types of stations that won't be supposed to be established more than 2 or 3, and the price of the ticket. That again won't answer
a very good question.
Answer the requirements of the middle class and the lower one.
But I always believe that we need to have something called what we call cross subsidy, i.e., you have 2 types of projects always on the agenda. One project is what we call the premium project that brings you the good benefits and the golden goose or the golden geese, as you want to say it, and then you take this and you cross subsidize other projects for the urban poor. So you have to invest on projects that will bring money to the country in order to use that money to improve the level of service for the urban poor and for your people. But you cannot improve the level of service in all the sectors for the urban poor from your local budget. You will not be able. From the taxpayer budget, you will not be able.
How does that happen in that case?
Well, as I said, is if you involve this bullet, for example, in the bullet train, if you have a formula whereby any kind of and I bet you that if it is done in a correct manner financially, there will be an enormous amount of income coming to the government. If you have this and then you cross-subsidize into the current existing railway system in order to improve it. Remember that the current existing railway system is passing exactly through urban poor, by the way. Urban and regional poor. Now you improve the level of service of that. Okay, what we have now on the railway sector is a very big problem of maintenance, as you rightly know, and of other things, inefficiencies in other types, but lack of funding. I mean, we are borrowing. We are trying to borrow now from the European Investment Bank or European, I think, Reconstruction Bank to get 20 new cars or 20 new wagons for the passengers. You need to renovate all of your fleet. You need to look at your rail construction itself. You need to close all this. Road rail at grade crossings, mazlanat. You need to close them and have bridges or tunnels. So you need a lot of work on that. And these people who are there will not move to the west easily. When you put the railway there, I mean, the balance is not there. They will stay there, and this is what we call the urban and regional poor that are staying. And you need them to stay there. There is no problem. By resettlement, you are creating different types of job opportunities. You are creating different types of cities. As we rightly have been said, logistic cities, sports cities. These are new job opportunities, very premium, and they will generate income enough, possibly, to do this. The Suez Canal is a project like that. We in Egypt now, during the whole past years, what was one of the main sources of our revenue is the Suez Canal, and not the taxpayers' money. It's the Suez Canal and the remittance of people coming from working abroad. And we use this money to hopefully do projects for the urban poor. This is the same thing. You are trying to capitalize on the geographical premium location of Egypt in all the different sectors to attract investors, to push into money and to generate income in order to use it to improve the level of service. Now, if you don't take the money and improve the level of service, that's something else. That's something out of my authority.
That is going to be another problem.
But that balance is the most important balance. People always do like this. Cross-subsidy is something very, very known, and to do big projects and to use the money generated to improve the level of service for others. Who are not able
So whenever we are talking about the transportation as a field, we are going to witness, inshallah, in a month now, the economic summit, which is going to be held in the Ritzy Resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. Do you think this field is going to be able to attract investors? I mean, is it that attracting? As I was just saying that in the press digest, whenever you're talking about the capitals or the money is covered. Whenever you're talking about a private sector or an investor, he does not want to have a risk. So Is it the new investment law? Is it the feasibility studies, as you have said? Is it the regime or the government's will and insistence to pave the way for investors to come and to give them all the facilities to invest here in Egypt? And whenever we are talking about your specialty in the field of transportation?
It's a very difficult question. It's a mixture of all of that. Now, I don't think that the summit is what we call a screening summit, i.e. it's a summit that opens the eyes of the international market into how in the different sectors, including the transport, we are thinking about projects. But I think maybe will come out of the summit for example, if the Ministry of Transport or the transport sector is going to the summit by a list of, for example, 50 or 60 projects in the different sectors of transport, road, rail, river, whatever. Now, maybe in the summit there will be talks that will happen where hopefully the Egyptian government will start shortlisting a number of projects that through the summit it's feeling that there are many entrepreneurs that are interested in such projects. Of course, it is not only like that. It has to be a marketable projects that has an interest. And I think that any project that the officials are going with should be a project out of the plan of Egypt. So this is a very important issue as well. You do not go with projects for the sake that the private sector is interested in. If it is not in accordance with your plan, even if the private sector wants it, you should not do it. The private sector is not the planning sector. The planning sector is the government. The government plans, and this is the project that we need. Now, some of them are bankable, i.e. some of them are very attractive to the private sector. Some of them may not be bankable, may not be attractive. Now, in the summit, hopefully that type of dialogue will happen between different parties in order to say that, okay, let's zoom into the following project in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. This will be studied well. This will be has feasibility studies well. This will have its terms of reference and request for tenders drafted in the correct and transparent manner. This will be marketed throughout the international market in a correct manner. And this process, this is the lengthy process, by the way. This is not a short process.
Sure.
If anybody says that this is a short process and ignores the process, it will backfire on backfire. So the summit is a very important opening key to engage with the private sector and to know what they want and what they are thinking. By the way, in the summit that we were in, the one I took, I had so many people. There was a guy coming from a very big Saudi company, and he was talking to me that his company is sending him specifically to see what project in Egypt. So people want to engage. People want to engage. Now, hopefully, this will be an opening and transparent forum for the Egyptian government to show all its intentions, and based on that intentions to collect data from the private sector on which projects are more attractive, and then do the whole exercises that you are talking about. Change the laws that have obstacles. Do the studies. Do not do the studies yourself. Bring consultants, and sometimes bring international consultants. Don't shy out of that. Bring good and strong steering committees. This has happened in the Suez Canal project by the Suez Canal Authority, bringing, for example, one of the companies to do the master plan, which will come in March. Hopefully, that master plan is released in the summit as well, which will show many projects in the Suez Canal area. I think there must be a relationship between the March summit happening possibly after the delivery of this output from the planning consultants of the Suez Canal project, and of course recruit the right people in order to be able to engage them and retain them and don't let them leave Egypt.
Right. Dr. Khaled Abbas, former Dean of Transportation, National Institution, if you could allow us, we are going to go to a short break and we'll come back to you with more on the challenges that are facing transportation in Egypt. Stay with us.
صابرين ابن مصر يا حر ابن حر بعد التحية والسلام
إن شاء الله زي دلوقتي لو كان لي عمرنا، وإن شاء الله المصير لهم العمر، نيجي ونفتتح المرحلة ديت ونعبر في القناة الجديدة ال 35 كيلو.
كمل مشوارك السكة لسه في أول،
احنا بنسابق الزمن
بس يا رب وربنا على خير هيكملها. لو شلتها ما أنا عارفك قدها وحدودها تشيلها. ما أنت من البلد اللي تملي بتجيب رجالة. كمل مشوارك السكة لسه في أولها، قول بس يا رب وربنا على خير هيكملها. لو شلتها ما أنا عارفك قدها وحدودها تشيلها. ده أنت من البلد اللي تملي بتجيب رجالة. مصر 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 تحيا مصر يا مصر. مصر 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 تحيا مصر.
Welcome back. We're still on with our show, The Breakfast Show, but right now we're going to take a quick live phone with Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Ambassador Haridi.
Good morning, madam.
My question to you, sir, is concerning the abduction of the workers in Libya. To our knowledge, that the Foreign Ministry is working in every means to be able to contain the situation and to instruct the families of the abducted workers on how to resolve the situation and be able to get some track of the abducted workers.
Well, I guess not only the Foreign Minister, the government and the presidency are doing their best. First of all, to follow up on the news and see what we can do with the Libyan authorities to free the kidnapped. And on the other hand, the Prime Minister yesterday met with the family members of some of those abducted, and the government decided to give to each family £1,200 as a pension, plus accommodation for the family members who would come from the countryside to Cairo in order to be in close touch with the government. And on the other hand, everyone is doing his best to ensure the release of those abducted. But having said that, I guess the aim of the pictures that we've seen on the Facebook and in some media is to force to put the Egyptian government in a very difficult position vis-a-vis what's going on in Libya. But so far, the government reactions are very planned, and they are geared to the release of the kidnapped as quickly as possible. On the other hand, the government has asked the Egyptians living in Libya to keep away from the dangerous zones in this country.
Mm-hmm. Sir, a very good morning to you. This is Nermina Abdurrahman. Whenever we are talking about such a situation, I think it's a deja vu. I mean, we've been through such crises before. According to your experience, how this is going to end?
First of all, this is the first time that we've seen pictures of the members of the terrorist organization Daesh having Egyptians and those Egyptians wearing the infamous orange.
I'm sorry for the interruption, sir. I know that this is the first time this way, but yes, putting Egyptians in danger, and especially in Libya, this is not the first time.
Yes, you are right. You are right. But let's remember that the foreign ministry has always been issuing travelers advisory against going to Libya, and particularly once in Libya, just asking Egyptians to keep away from the regions where there is insecurity and instability and complete absence of government control. And really, and the foreign ministry keeps issuing these travelers advisories, but some Egyptians keep going there. And of course, the president has ordered a couple of days ago a government cell to prepare for the evacuation of those Egyptians living in Libya who would like to go back to Egypt. So I hope that our people in Libya would heed this call and return back to Egypt.
Right, Ambassador Hariri, of course, trying to contain the situation and, of course, trying to compensate the families, although that no news have been released yet, but trying to contain the situation by the government is a good thing. But also, when we look, take a thorough look over the whole issue, we could take a flashback in time and see how the Jordanian government have taken very harsh measures to the execution of the Jordanian pilot that took place earlier a week ago, and they intensified their attacks on those jihadist militants. I mean, are there any measures?
Excuse me. I don't think that there is room for comparing the Jordanian reaction and the Egyptian reaction. First of all, let me put it this way: the United States is fully backing Jordan. And in the case of Egypt, I don't think that the United States is backing Egypt in its fight against terrorism. And in this same context, after the images of the burning of the late Muaz al-Qatasba, the U.S. Congress authorized $3 billion US dollars as assistance to Jordan. Comparing, we cannot, our reaction, to tell you the truth, frankly speaking, the government reaction in Cairo, I welcome it because it's a trap. Some powers, some international powers and regional powers would like to suck in Egypt into the Libyan quagmire. And we, despite the fact that the insecurity and the instability reigning in Libya is a direct threat to Egyptian security and our national security, but the government is fully aware of what's being hatched there against Egyptian interests. We'll never intervene militarily in Libya. And personally speaking, I guess despite the risks and despite the dangers and despite the fact that Egyptians, some terrorist groups do target Egyptians in Libya, we must never intervene militarily in Libya. Having said that, we have to protect our borders with Libya to make sure that no one would infiltrate from Libya, no terrorist would infiltrate from Libya into the western desert. That's what we can do. Otherwise, it's very wise not to intervene militarily there.
Right. One final question, Ambassador Hariri. Apart from what's happening in Libya, given the fact that those kidnapped or abducted are, of course, Egyptians, but they are Christians. That's a reality.
No,
right. But also, let me note to you that another crime. So this is considered as a crime of hate. Another crime of hate took place in the United States in North Carolina, where Muslims were assassinated and executed in cold blood by a citizen. What kind of measures could you think could be taken against those terrible crimes of hate against Muslims and Christians or any religion? I mean, Arabs.
First of all, what's taking place in Libya is directed against Egypt as a country. Regardless of the fact that in the statements issued by the terrorist organizations, they keep referring to Christians or Copts. For us here, as an Egyptian, I don't draw a distinction between a Muslim and a Copt in this country. We are all Egyptians, and I call on all media in Egypt not to use the word Copts and Muslims, because we are falling, in doing so, we fall in the trap of those terrorist organizations, ladies. And on the other hand, what happened in the United States is highly unfortunate. Is highly unfortunate. And yesterday, the White House issued a statement in which the American president qualified what happened in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, as outrageous and brutal. Well, this is the first official reaction from the White House. American authorities so far are dealing with the murders as a car park dispute. But of course, this I doubt very much of the veracity of this version of events. Many American Muslims, after the release of the American film called American Sniper, which about a story about an American soldier who went to Iraq in the context of the American invasion of this country. Many Muslim Americans have accused this film particularly of fomenting hatred towards Arabs and Muslims in the United States. I read the review of this film, and really it's very outrageous for anyone to depict the Arabs and the Muslims the way that this film has done.
Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for your input, sir,
you, madam.
and have a very good day. Returning back to you, Dr. Abbas, of course we are sorry for the interruption, but you know that this is a very important topic, and we all hope that all the Egyptians outside Egypt, and especially those kidnapped in Libya, are going to return safely home. Sir, getting back to our main topic, which is transportation, you know, as we were speaking, and even in the break, we were speaking about the national security and how many fields like that one of transportation is considered one of the red lines we have according to our national security strategies. And because of this, we cannot leave such a sector in the hands of the private sector, or in specific in the foreign investors' hands. If you can elaborate on that and how to have this balance or this guarantees.
Yeah. This is important. I mean, there are many kind of business models that you can engage with the private sector. One of them is actually to what we call public-private partnership, and people sometimes there are many types of public-private partnership, and one of them is actually to form a joint company between the government and between the private sector investor. So this is one form of it, and the other form is to let it for the private sector investor through a concession agreement. However, you have to ensure that you have a very good governing bodies from the government to ensure that this agreement is abided to through contractual obligations and all that stuff, and you can stop him, and you can do all of the other things.
Governance rather than
governance. Governance, yeah,
Yes.
Governance, not government. I mean, but governance could have different forms of governance. Could be governance by government or governance by other type of organization. Could be even international governance. I mean, but this is a little bit over. But I mean, we can do this sometimes even private sector governance between. In South Africa, for example, in projects like that, they have formed governance bodies, which is funded by the government and by the private sector entrepreneur. And this is an independent body that takes its salaries from both bodies, and so equally. And so it's not loyal neither to this or to that, but they refer to it when there is a conflict or anything like that. However, I do also encourage what you have said. If there is a very strategic project and we feel that this project should not be fully in the hands, is to form companies, as we have said, between the government and between the private sector as well. But of course, you have to have government people who are capable of engaging with the private sector and being part of it. I think there are many examples of that, by the way, in the petrol sector, in the oil sector.
Yes,
there are several companies that has been formed in the oil sector, which is basically Egyptian government with foreign enterprise, and you have the board of directors having both of them sitting on the board of directors and moving along. So we have to learn from these experiences as well. But also with the national security argument, it's not only that it's in the hands, actually the national security argument falls into another thing related even to the ambassador and to the report that you have. And that is, we really need to occupy our area, our land, i.e. we need to move west and we need to move east. We cannot just stay in the delta. And in the strip. We have to have all what we can do in order to make our Egyptian people have job opportunities and good quality of life east and west of these strips in order to move this population as a national security, as well as it's not only national security for the land, it's national security for our increasing population. Our increasing population currently is an obstacle, but it could be in the future an asset. If you are able to redistribute the population in the correct manner, if you are able to create job opportunities and to make them generate more income, this will be an asset for you. But now, because they are all in very small areas and causing lots of level of service deterioration and all that stuff, this is where the problem is. The problem is not in them. The problem is that we have to manage and distribute the population in
sustainability.
Egypt. And sustainability, of course. Yeah,
Right.
Yes.
Dr. Khaled Abbas, former Dean of the Transportation National Institution, would like to thank you very much for coming over to the Breakfast Show, and have a good day.
Same to you. Have a good day.
We're going to leave you, sir, to see you again in other episodes of the Breakfast Show, because this field and this topic is very rich, and we do have a lot of other questions and discussions with you, inshallah.
Thank you very much, inshallah.
By this, we come to the end of this very special episode of the Breakfast Show. Till we meet again, same time on Nile TV International. Many thanks for watching. My name is Nermina Abdurrahman, and of course, I had all the pleasure to be in the company of my dear colleague Dina Hussein.
Same here, Nermeen. Thank you very
Hadia,
much.
before we go,
And
on behalf of our director, Hadia Osman,
director was
thank you
Hadia
very much.
Osman for this morning. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
طوبة وابني مصر مكتوبة لابني وابنك، وعجبني انك مشاركني بتبني معاك، واللي مكسور يتصلح، شاركتني وحاجة تفرح، مش هنمشي غير لما نرفع تاني الراية. طوبة فوق طوبة وابني مصر مكتوبة لابني وابنك، وعجبني انك مشاركني بتبني معايا، واللي مكسور يتصلح، شاركتني وحاجة تفرح، مش هنمشي غير لما نرفع تاني الراية. ابني طول ما في كمان، ابني لنهاية الحياة، حط مصر قصاد عيونك، ابني وحد الاتجاه، يلا نهتف والورايا، طوبة فوق طوبة نبني. هات معك علمك علي، ملي عينك دي ملي، انت بايدك هتخلي بلدك في السما وهتتبهى بينا. ابن مصر ده مين قده، مين ده اللي استاجر يده، رجالتنا بيتغدوا باللي بيجي عليه. هات معك علمك علي، ملي عينك دي ملي، انت بايدك هتخلي بلدك في السما وهتتبهى بينا. مصر ده مين قده، مين ده اللي استجرى يده، رجالتنا بيتغدوا